What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Rec Nation, guys. Listen, we have something a little bit different. You know, in the vein of looking for different sources for what we check out here on the channel. I stumbled upon this. This is actually a 2-year-old video, but I want to hear what Simon Whistler has to say about the place where I was put together. Right? Where he's talking about Fort Bragg, the largest military base in the world. Guys, it will always be Fort Bragg to me. Now it's Fort Liberty, I think. Yeah, Fort Liberty. I looked it up. I was like, I can't. It's Fort Bragg. I was Fort Bragg. I guess the new people going through it, Fort Liberty, Fort Bragg. That's what put me together. So let's see. I mean, let's see what else there is that I didn't know about. But it'd be interesting to see his perspective on Fort Bragg. Okay? So let's dive in. That's where this guy came from. Right out of the assembly line. Look at that guy. Look at him. Jeez. Changing the world. G.I. Daniel. Oh, man. My wife was like, when are you going to shave your beard? I was like, I did once for my country. That's it. That was my dedication right there. So look, let's go ahead. Let's pull up Simon Whistler. Let's see what he has to say. Let's see what he has to say about my home away from home. All right, ready? 3, 2, 1, let's go.
By Squarespace from websites and online stores to market. This video is brought to you by Squarespace from websites and online stores to marketing tools and analytics. Squarespace is the all-in-one platform to build a beautiful online presence and run your business. You can check out Squarespace through the link in the description below. More on them in a bit.
All right. Letting you know, this is 2 years old. We are going to skip through his ads. Love Simon Whistler. I feel like if all my little side projects were as successful as Simon Whistler's, oh my goodness, we'd be having a different... my background would be leather-bound books and rich mahogany. But whatever. We're chugging away, guys. All right, here. Check it out. Come on, man.
Based outside of Fayetteville, North Carolina, in the Piedmont transition zone between the Atlantic
The what?
coast.
What do you say? Fayetteville? Fayetteville. Come on, man.
Based outside of Fayetteville, North Carolina, in the Piedmont transition zone between the Atlantic coastal plain and the Appalachian Mountains, Fort Bragg Army Base is an ideal place for military training. Consequently, the US military has based its Armed Forces Command and Army Reserve Command there. Additionally, many of the US Army's elite forces are garrisoned there, including the Army Special Operations Command and the 1st Special Forces Command. The base is known as the home of the airborne because it houses the 18th Airborne Corps and many of its divisions, including the 82nd. With all of these units doing their training at Fort Bragg, it's a huge installation. It's one of the largest military bases in the world by area at 251 square miles or 650 square kilometers, more than 10 times the size of Manhattan. Not only that, it's the largest military base in the world by garrison population, with nearly 54,000 active duty soldiers on base and a population served of over 260,000, including military family members, civilian contractors, and students. That's bigger than the population of several large cities like Lubbock, Texas, and Spokane, Washington. Fort Bragg became an increasingly important installation for the US military through the Cold War and the wars in the Middle East, with considerable rapid deployment capabilities by air, highway, and rail. Today, it has widely become considered the military capital of the world.
I could see that.
Fort Bragg started out as a small training station called Camp Bragg. It was established in 1918 at the end of World War I as a place to test many of the new long-range artillery weapons developed during the war and train personnel on them. The US Army chose the location for Camp Bragg because it had the right terrain for artillery practice, as well as access to railways and water in the form of the Little River and several creeks.
That's interesting. Camp Bragg. Was it almost Marines? Or is it always Army? Because Marines have camps. Army has forts. So just a little, like, they have Camp Lejeune and the other camps. But yeah, Fort Bragg. Okay. Camp Bragg. Interesting.
lakes. Plus, the climate made it possible for the Army to train year-round. The Army built Camp Bragg with facilities for 6 artillery brigades. Additionally, they installed an airfield called Pope Field, which at the time was designed to host spotting aircraft for the practicing artillery. Pope Field is still a major part of Fort Bragg, serving many of the airborne units. Camp Bragg was named after Braxton Bragg, a West Point graduate who served as an officer in the U.S. Army during the Second Seminole War and the Mexican-American War. Bragg then sided with the Confederacy during the American Civil War and rose to the position of General of the Army of Tennessee. Because Bragg commanded campaigns in North Carolina and was a native of the state, the Army decided on him for the new artillery camp's namesake. However, as per the National Defense Authorization Act for 2021, influenced by current movements to remove Confederate statues and memorials, the Army must now rename any assets that commemorate the Confederacy or anyone who served voluntarily in its armed forces, and that includes Fort Bragg. Camp Bragg almost closed in 1921, but lobbying from the camp's officers convinced the Army's top brass to not only leave it in place, but to make it a permanent installation and therefore a fort in 1922. It remained small until World War II, when a number of armored and infantry divisions, as well as the 82nd Airborne Division, were relocated there, raising the population to a whopping 159,000. World War II also saw a considerable expansion of the base's installations. The Army paved many of the roads and runways and built Camp Mackle, which included an airfield and over 1,700 buildings. Camp Mackle is now well known for the part it plays in training U.S. Army Special Forces, the Green Berets. Furthermore, in 1942, the Army created the Airborne Command located at Fort Bragg to begin training paratroopers for operations in the European and Pacific theaters. After coming back from Europe, the 82nd Airborne Division made its home at the base, and the 18th Airborne Corps was established there in 1951, prompting the name Home of the Airborne. Now, just before we continue with today's video, let me tell you about our fantastic sponsor, Squarespace. Look, it's a brand new year.
All right. Couple of things. I'm going to leave this in. Nothing against Simon, but I'm pretty sure this ad is outdated anyway. Love your stuff, brother. But skipping ahead. I didn't really know too much about... I mean, Braxton Bragg from the Civil War. At least the Civil War oversimplified that we've had on the channel. And that was... Was it? No. We haven't had the Civil War oversimplified. But I know Bragg was in the Civil War, the Confederacy. So, I mean, it's the name of a base. I get it. I get why, but still, I graduated from Fort Bragg. My certificates of graduation say Fort Bragg. Right, okay? Fort Bragg. Nothing else. Not Fort Liberty or Pursuit of Happiness or anything like that. They should have named it like what many said, Fort Benavides, right? That would have been awesome. That should be it. Someone in the... anyway. Oh my God, I'm about to get on a soapbox. We don't have time for that.
Fort Bragg is central and essential to the US military's mission readiness and global responsiveness. Their ability to deploy to any corner of the world at a moment's notice is critical. Fort Bragg has access to numerous airfields. The most important is Pope Field, which provides training and deployment services for the 18th Airborne Corps and other operations originating at Fort Bragg. Under an inter-service agreement, the airfield is also used by the US Air Force, specifically the 43rd Air Mobility Operations Group, as well as 3 secretive special operations units and the Air Force Combat Control School. Pope Field has 2 paved runways. The main runway is roughly 2,900 meters long, that's 9,500 feet, and there's an additional assault strip measuring 914 meters or 3,000 feet. Another important airfield is Simmons Army Airfield, which also supports the 18th Airborne Corps and most of the special operations originating at Fort Bragg. It has 1 runway measuring 1,400 meters, it's 4,600 feet. These airfields were instrumental in demonstrating Fort Bragg's role in America's projection of power during the Gulf War in the early 90s. Pope Field and Simmons Airfield operated round the clock to deploy soldiers to bases in Saudi Arabia and then Kuwait to defend the nation against Saddam Hussein's advancing armies. Then, during the war in Afghanistan in 2001 and Iraq in 2003, Fort Bragg repeated its success, deploying more personnel than any other base. This efficiency ultimately factored into the Army's decision to move its headquarters to the base in 2011 after the closure of Fort McPherson in Georgia. As Fort Bragg has become increasingly important to the goals and operations of the US military, the Army has gone to great lengths to modernize the facilities. That's included tearing down many of the old World War II era buildings like the original barracks for the 82nd Airborne and replacing them with modern structures, as well as building new buildings for Army Air Force Command and Army Reserve Command. Other facilities at Fort Bragg include Womack Army Medical Center, 11 schools, a number of parks and recreational facilities, and a golf course. There was briefly even a baseball stadium, Fort Bragg Stadium, which was built specifically for the Fort Bragg game between the Atlanta Braves and the Miami Marlins, played in July of 2016, the first regular season Major League Baseball game ever held on a military base. However, after the game, the grandstands were removed and the stadium was converted to an all-purpose recreational field.
You can see it. You can see it. You can see it. You can see it. Hold on.
Fort Bragg Stadium, which was built specifically for the Fort Bragg game between the Atlanta Braves and the Miami Marlins, played in July of 2016, the first regular.
Right there, you can see our patch right there. That's mine. That's right there. What? Oh my God! Guitar sounds. Guitar sounds. Hold on, easy there, bud. You can see our little. Hey, right there in the back. Golly day. There it is. The electric butter knife. Ah, man. All right, good memories. Sorry, guys, this is just nostalgic for me.
A season Major League Baseball game ever held on a military base. However, after the game, the grandstands were removed and the stadium was converted to an all-purpose recreational field. Aside from these amenities, 146,000 acres or 590 of Fort Bragg's 650 square kilometers are dedicated to training. That's over 11,000 football fields, American football fields anyway. There are 1,400 miles or 2,300 kilometers of paved roadway and 21 miles or 34 kilometers of railroad track. Because Fort Bragg is central to the United States' projection of power, many of its most elite units are stationed there, as we've already mentioned, especially airborne infantry. The 18th Airborne Corps is headquartered there, commanding units like the 82nd and 101st Airborne Divisions, which became famous for their roles in the Normandy landings in World War II. The 82nd Airborne Division itself is based at Fort Bragg as well. The division was formed in World War I, during which time it earned the nickname the All-American Division because it had soldiers from each of the, at the time, 48 states. During World War II, the division played a vital role in the Sicily and Italy campaigns, as well as at Normandy. Fort Bragg is also home to Army Special Operations Command. This includes the headquarters of the 1st Special Forces Command. Most famously, 1st Special Forces Command handles the operations of the US Army Special Forces, also known as the Green Berets. The Green Berets are an elite airborne light infantry force famed for their paramilitary prowess, language skills, and intense selection process that involves some of the most physically, emotionally, and mentally demanding exercises in the US military. The Green Berets also rose to widespread fame during the Vietnam War and have since been used as one of the Army's primary units behind enemy lines. They often use their language and cultural training to sneak into enemy territory and ally themselves with insurgent groups. For instance, in Iraq, they were instrumental in supporting the Kurdish resistance to Saddam Hussein's government. For these reasons, the Green Berets are often a feeding unit for US paramilitary intelligence units like the CIA's Special Activities Division, which took part in the assassination of Osama bin Laden, and the US Delta Force, known for a number of clandestine operations, also based at Fort Bragg. The US Army Special Forces are divided into 7 units or groups, each responsible for a different part of the globe. Most of these are stationed elsewhere, but 3rd Special Forces Group, in charge of operations in Africa, is based at Fort Bragg. The Green Berets aren't the only special operations force under the 1st Special Forces Command, though the unit also oversees psychological operations and civil affairs, many units of which are based at Fort Bragg. These include the 4th and 8th Psychological Operations Group and the 95th Civil Affairs Brigade. All of these units are airborne. Finally, the Air Force has several elite units on the base as well, specifically at Pope Field. These include
Sorry guys, that's so awesome. Hey, someone, hey, come on, Civil Affairs. Come on, man. Yeah, we trained right there with psychological operations. I think that training was we were neck and neck with each other. They mixed. Civil Affairs and psychological operations. We shared the same barracks. And the only other difference between their training and our training were the classroom type training, where we went in and sat in. But yeah, Oh, dude, love it, love hearing that. Oh God.
11th Special Operations Intelligence Squadron and the 24th Special Tactics Squadron, also known as the Pararescuemen or PJs. The PJs are famous for their airborne rescue missions, often inserting via dangerous high-altitude, low-opening jumps or halo jumps to save stranded Special Operations units or even NASA astronauts. The US Army is far from finished expanding Fort Bragg. In 2018, $699 million worth of construction plans were announced, though many of these projects have been delayed due to COVID-19. For example, $27 million of this is earmarked for a new entertainment and retail center called Freedom Crossing that will provide restaurants, shops, a movie theater, and outdoor entertainment venue to serve the active duty and retired soldiers on the base. However, the bulk of the nearly $1 billion will go to a wish list of projects for Special Operations Command. These include a new fire station and upgrades to barracks, the airfields, and tactical equipment, as well as the expansion of training grounds and facilities. With an even greater ability to train elite forces and deploy them around the world, Fort Bragg seems destined to remain the head of the spear when it comes to the US military's global readiness and projection of power. It's unlikely it will lose its title of the world's largest military base anytime soon.
Hey, man.
So I really hope you found that video.
Come on, man. Hey, that was good. I don't know if you guys found that interesting, but that was nostalgic. That was nostalgic for me. I had to put my patch back up. Oh my God. Anyway, I'll get it. Man, talk about a lifetime ago. Wow, yeah. If you guys don't know, yeah, that's a big deal. Fort Bragg or Fort Justice, Liberty, whatever it is. Yeah, guys, there you go. There's Fort Bragg. Fort Bragg for you. How about them? Them apples. God, forts are interesting. They definitely needed, when I was there, they definitely needed some funding pumped into infrastructure for sure. Even though a lot of the buildings, a lot of the training facilities were brand spanking new, right? A lot of like the classroom environments, the classroom buildings, those were awesome. But like the training facility, yeah, could definitely use a bunch of money pumped into it. And, love Fayetteville, North Carolina, right? Love Fayetteville. But anytime, if you guys are in the U.S., you guys, or those of you that are already here in the U.S., you guys know, around bases, man. Around bases, it's either like a Hooters and a church, strip club, church, tattoo parlor. that's pretty much it. And pawn shops, loan places, like loan shark places, and car dealerships. That's how you know you're kind of around a base. And lots of Dodge Chargers, lots of Hellcats in there on the road. But anyway, guys, listen. Much love. I know no one asked for this, but hey, this is nostalgic for me. This is my journey as well. I get to choose the videos I want to put out as well. Anyway, guys, much love. Thank you for rocking with me. Thank you for rocking with the channel. You guys are absolute legends. Make sure you stick around for other videos. Remember, the bulk of our content is now over on Rumble. That link will be pinned in the comment section, as well as the description of the video. So if you're like, where the hell are your videos? They're all over on Rumble. I'm sorry. Like our World at War journey, our military films that we're checking out, right? All the movement is over on Rumble. That's almost, well, soon to be a daily uploader channel over there. So make sure you're plugged in over there as well. Okay? Anyway, guys, make sure you unplug, do something legendary, and I will see you all in the next video. Later, guys.